You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tehan. In addition to this show, I write for the PackersPost.com and Cheesehead TV. Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. And welcome back, Sean.
We're back from across the pond, Gil. It's good to be back. Good to be back in the homeland. And hey, preseason action is kicking off this weekend. And if people are looking to get prepared for preseason, you can go to theticketking.com, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For more than 30 years, they've been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans, as well as Bucks tickets, Brewer tickets. Hey, Brewers best record in baseball right now. Go see them. And Summerfest tickets. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Again, theticketking.com. You can see the link right there on your screen. If you're watching with us on YouTube, you can watch every episode of No Huddle Radio on Packers Talk Network with Gil and myself on YouTube. Click on the bell while you're there. Turn the notifications on. Join the discussion. Chat with us live. Love to see and talk about the comments coming our way. And yeah, Gil, it's obviously it was a busy time for me to get away. My wife and I had a wedding overseas. We had a great time, but it's good to be back in the saddle. And obviously quite a bit to talk about when it comes to the Packers, especially in that defensive secondary where it sounds like Nate Hobbs had a knee issue that popped up, and he's going to be missing the rest of the training camp. Xavier McKinney, news breaking on Thursday that he had a calf issue that luckily it sounded like was caught early. He may miss the rest of the training camp, but should be back in time for week one. So let me ask you this, Gil, where it's like we were a little bit concerned about the depth at corner. The safety position is in pretty good shape overall for the Packers, you think, depth-wise, but should there be concern with the Packers secondary right now with all these injuries coming up?
A little bit. I mean, look, we're not quite at preseason game one yet, so I'm not panicked. I mean, even if he was healthy, how much would Xavier McKinney play? A series if he played at all? So I'm not concerned so much about that. The key to me is getting these guys ready for week one. And I'm more concerned about Nate Hobbs for two reasons. Number one, he's not as familiar with the system. He's not as familiar with the team. Training camp, more than preseason, in my mind, was important for him to get those reps and to get up to speed and just get a little bit more comfortable with the system, his teammates, the timing, all of that stuff. But the other concern I have about Nate Hobbs, you look at his history. Yeah. He's been in the league 4 seasons. He's only played a full set of games in one of those 4 seasons, and that was his rookie year. He, as we saw early on in training camp, likes to be physical, but based on his lack of size, can his body cash the checks that his style of play is writing? And that's my concern.
Yeah, and that's the thing is early in training camp, Gil, it was a matter of like Nate Hobbs was just being too physical. He was being told to essentially tone it down a little bit. We were literally talking last week about how it's like, okay, like is he being too physical? And maybe this is I was thinking initially with this, like, okay, maybe this is a way of the Packers just knowing like, hey, we know what we got in Nate Hobbs. He's going to be in the classroom. We don't need to potentially risk him getting a greater injury in training camp right now. We need him for the real deal. But I do agree with you where I don't think Xavier McKinney really needs training camp. I think the guy was a first-team All-Pro. He's a heck of a player, one of the best safeties in football. I really don't think training camp is super necessary for him, but it'd be nice to have that familiarity for Nate Hobbs. I'm with you there where just get him in the fold where if just getting reps with Nate Hobbs on the outside and then moving to the inside and other guys moving outside and just being able to know how these guys can react off of one another. This is the time to do it and the time to feel that out. But, you know, the thing is it's just overall the communication. That's where I'm a little concerned about where I hope 1 week of practice going into the opener, I hope that's enough for this team if Nate Hobbs is practicing and Xavier McKinney are practicing. Because guess what? I know the Detroit Lions, I know they have a new offensive coordinator. Their old offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson's now the head coach in Chicago. And there's going to be some growing pains there. But guess what? Jared Goff in that offense is still a machine. And if you are not buttoned up in the secondary, especially against that offensive unit, against that passing attack, Packers could be in for a big world of trouble in week one if the communication and everything is not there.
And look, we have seen the way the NFL has evolved, that the first couple of games of the season are more like preseason games in quality, because most teams do not play their starters at all or barely in the 3 preseason games. You know, the risk of injury, all the potential issues that are out there. Now, Matt LaFleur, interestingly enough, said he may play his starters in season because he did, or somebody did some research that showed that if you play your starters in preseason, they're less likely to get hurt early in the season. Going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But the Lions, those receivers that you mentioned, Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, Jameson, you got to be ready for those guys. And that's where the concern, we can lose to the Jets 38-0, and I won't lose that much sleep over it. But week one, that's when you got to be ready. And I'm hoping Nate Hobbs is indeed ready to start the season on time.
Yeah, and with Xavier McKinney, I think, again, like missing him, I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I think he's going to be able to slide right in. But with him and Nate Hobbs, that's essentially, if you count 5 DBs as part of your starting lineup, 40% of your secondary is not practicing even, potentially, for the rest of training camp going into week one of the season. And it's just, you just hope that they can button stuff up pretty quickly. You hope maybe it's just Nate Hobbs they just tell Nate Hobbs, like, go there, cover that guy. This is your assignment, and go. And just play with your head on fire, play with your butt on fire, essentially. So that's what you got to hope for. But you just hope that these injuries are not super serious. You hope that they are available for week one. Yeah, obviously, they're hoping to be available for week one, but we just don't know. And it's just a matter of we'll see essentially what happens. But Gil, we're talking about that safety group, though. Obviously, Evan Williams had a really good rookie year overall last year. Javon Bullard had flashes last season. Zane Anderson even played pretty well. Tehan Oladapo, he was a medical red flag coming out of college last year, but he played a little bit. It's like, okay, you could see this guy potentially fitting in on an NFL roster, on an NFL defense. But another guy who's made it a little tougher is Omar Brown, the second year safety out of Nebraska. He was an undrafted free agent signing by the Denver Broncos, I believe it was last year. He got cut by the Broncos. The Packers brought him to the practice squad. They elevated him for a couple games last year just for some depth and special team purposes. And the guy balled out on family night, Gil, from what I saw. Even though I was overseas, I was checking in, and Omar Brown, it seemed like every time I was opening my phone, he was intercepting a pass. He had 3 interceptions on family night. And he's been doing this throughout training camp, too, in practice. Not under the bright lights of Lambeau, but in practice, too. The question is now, Gil, because he's making such a great impression. This reminds me of, like, on offense when Emmanuel Wilson was tearing it up so much that they're like, we got to keep this guy in the 53-man roster. Is Omar Brown going to make the initial 53-man roster this year?
His chances have certainly gone up. No question about that. I think he's got a shot. Now, he's got to keep playing at a high level. He's got to keep making plays. But if you were to ask the average Packer fan a week ago, what are the chances of Omar Brown making the 53-man roster? Most fans would have said, who?
Yeah. Who's Omar Brown? Yeah.
Right. Who's Omar Brown? Now, at least he's made himself part of that conversation. People are, the fans are aware of him, and the coaching staff had to step up and take notice as well. And that's the key to him making the team. I think there's no doubt he will at least be asked to be on the practice squad if he doesn't make the roster. But I think he's got a better chance. And you know what? The key for Omar Brown may be special teams, where he has to play well on special teams even more than he has to play well at safety during these preseason games and the rest of training camp. Because, those depth players, if you're not contributing on special teams, your value to the team is much lower.
And you got to look at this safety group. Right now, Omar Brown is one of 6 safeties on the roster currently for the Green Bay Packers in training camp. And 3 of those guys are locks. McKinney, Bullard, Evan Williams. Those three are locks for sure. Tehan Oladapo, I was thinking would be a lock because he was a 5th-round pick a couple years ago. But You don't know. That I don't think he's a lock. Zane Anderson, though, made the roster last year, shockingly over Anthony Johnson, who did get claimed on waivers as soon as he got released last year. He got claimed off of waivers by the New York Giants. He surprisingly didn't make the team, but it was because Zane Anderson was better on special teams. So it is going to come down to special teams, but I just feel like, especially if he has some really, really good preseason games, if he plays really well in these 3 preseason games, Packers are going to be really hard to not let this guy walk. And remember, too, another thing with Omar Brown, another key fact is when he was entering the 2024 NFL draft, the Packers had him in for a top 30 visit. He was one of the guys they had in there. They've liked this guy for a long time.
Yeah.
And Brian Gutekunst has admitted also where it's like, yeah, we've always kept an eye on guys who maybe we really liked in the draft process, but we couldn't get in the draft or couldn't get in undrafted free agency. And then they give him a chance. Andre Dillard was an example last year, obviously not with the Packers this year, but a guy that they keep their eyes on guys. So that's where it's like it could be some GM bias right there by Brian Gutekunst, where it's like, well, I really like this guy, and if the coaches like him even a little bit, we're keeping him.
Yeah, and look, again, he's got to keep doing it. It's great that he had 3 interceptions at family night. It's still a glorified practice. Let's not get carried away. But I think he's looked good according to the coaching staff throughout practice. I love to hear the phrase, he just keeps making plays, right? Yeah. I mean, that's something that tells you the way the coaching staff is thinking. So, will he make the roster? I'd say it's a little better than 50-50 right now, but he certainly has advanced his chances a lot based on his start at camp.
Yeah, I think the big thing is I think he's ahead of Tehan Oladapo right now.
Probably.
Yeah. Zane Anderson, they like him for special teams, where I think it's going to be hard for them to cut Zane Anderson unless they feel like Omar Brown or Oladapo are better for special teams. And that's a Rich Bisaccia decision right there. That is obviously that's gonna come down to Rich Bisaccia. It's like, who do you like more on special teams out of the safety group? It's like, and Zane Anderson, I feel like is going to have an edge. So it's hard to not put Brown above Oladapo right now, a guy who I did like coming out of Oregon State and a guy who fell in the draft because of his injury stuff. But who knows? These preseason games are going to be very, very critical for those bottom 3 safeties on the Packers roster right now, outside of McKinney, Bullard, and Williams. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens moving forward. It's a cool story. Obviously, we saw last year, Aaron Mosby, he dominated in the final preseason game. That sealed his spot in the initial 53-man roster. We saw it years ago, obviously, with Jake Kumro, Whitewater Jesus, whatever you want to call him. And he made the roster because he had a dazzling training camp. Chris Banjo had a great preseason a long time ago. Chris Banjo is now an NFL coach, by the way. How old do you feel right there?
Yeah, that's...
Isn't that nuts?
Chris
Banjo's a coach. He's been a coach for, I think, 2 or 3 years now, too, which is crazy. Because when he left the Packers, he was like, he had a long career after he left the Packers, too, which is, it's shocking. But, Gil, I got to ask you this. Besides Omar Brown, though, who obviously stole the show on Family Night, what else stood out from Family Night, in your opinion?
Well, if we talk about, Brown being the very good news, to me, some of the bad news was that Jordan Morgan struggled at left tackle.
Yeah. And
watching him get beat a few times in a fashion that you don't really want to see, I just, the more I see him trying to play tackle, the more I think he's a guard in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to bring up, Gil, the flip side of the coin, where my big question was, because a lot of the times that Jordan Morgan didn't look too good, it was against Lucas Van Ness. And is that more so, has Lucas Van Ness taken that jump that we really, really want to see him going into his 3rd year? A guy who they got him because of the Aaron Rodgers trade. They got him where they were able to move up and get Lucas Van Ness. He was probably going to go 14th to the New England Patriots if Green Bay doesn't jump up there in 2023. Was he just really good, or was Jordan Morgan really bad? Because I will say this, I still believe in Jordan Morgan, but I think right now he's better suited as a guard. But hey, the guy's still he's entering year 2.
Yeah.
He had injury issues last year. I still want to give him a chance. There's still time. It's like this doesn't happen overnight. Like, there's still a chance that he could be a very good player, but right now it was a little bit concerning what we saw in Family Night from him.
It was the footwork. It was the way his timing, his footwork, his hand placement, those are sort of some of the fundamental things you need to see from an offensive tackle. Look, everybody's going to get beat now and again. It's the way he got beat that bothered me. And yes, I was happy to see Van Ness make some of those moves and make some of those plays, but I need to see better. And I'm not even close to giving up on Jordan Morgan. And if he turns out to be a 5, 6, 7-year starter at right guard, I'll be plenty happy with that, if he's a quality right guard for years. But as of right now, I still am not sold on him as being a left tackle.
Yeah, and there's a lot of chatter online right now where it's like, oh man, like what a bust. Like, Brian Goodwin's got cute. It's like, you can't say a guy is a bust going into his second year. It's just, this happens. I remember a long time ago when Jalen Hurts was first starting for the Philadelphia Eagles, and people were like, oh, he's trash, he's garbage. Like, he's a bust too. And the guy just won Super Bowl MVP. It's like this. Just you gotta let guys breathe. Football is such a unique sport. It's not like basketball where the best player in a rookie class will usually, they'll hit the ground running right away. It's just like learning the little fine-tuned stuff. But in the NFL, it's not smooth, man. Like there is definitely growing pains for every NFL player going into the league.
Go back and look at the first year stats of Troy Aikman, of John Elway, of Peyton Manning. It wasn't pretty, folks. It does take time for most rookies to make the adjustment to the National Football League. And when you think about the fact that Morgan was only limited to 6 games last year and was injured for the other 11 plus the playoff game, you got to give him some time.
Yeah, that's and I will say also, it was cool to see Matthew Golden running around.
Yes, that was my next thing. Yeah,
because he's just, man, I know it's just practice, and I know it's like I keep telling myself, Sean, just don't put the cart before the horse. Just take it easy. Don't get so excited. But golly, man, I'm excited about this kid. I know it's like the Packers. It's the first receiver they've drafted since Javon Walker 2002. But golly, he's looking the part of a first-round pick right now, Gil.
He is. He really is looking the part. You get the feeling after seeing, and again, it's been 2 weeks of practice, but you get the feeling that he's going to contribute more as a rookie. He's going to have a substantial role. I think he's even going to start, maybe even from week 1. So we'll see, but he's off to a good start. Like you said, you got to sort of temper the expectations a little bit, but so far, so good.
Yeah, I feel like Jack Nicholson, anger management, is just saying Goose Fraba, just like relax. Like I'm just trying to relax. Goose Fraba. And John Turturro being like, Goose blah blah. No, Goose Fraba. So that's where I feel like I am right now with Matthew Golden, because I'm super excited. But the Packers, obviously, they have a preseason game this weekend at Lambeau Field against the New York Jets. This would have been a lot more newsworthy if it was a season ago. Aaron Rodgers would have been back in the house, back in the building, but obviously not shaking out that way. It's just a little different now. But it's Justin Fields, who's the starting quarterback for the New York Jets, who used to obviously play for the rival Bears. And Gil, obviously, I want to see Matthew Golden play against another team. I want to see this defense play. I want to see the Packers in general play against another team. I want Jordan Morgan to get another crack against another team playing left tackle. What else do we want to see in the preseason opener, though? What else do you want to see in the preseason opener?
Well, we touched on Lucas Van Ness, so I definitely want to see what he does. But one guy I'm keeping an eye on in the preseason opener, Bo Melton. Yeah. I want to see Bo Melton play cornerback against live opposition in game circumstances. And there's going to be a learning curve, and he's going to probably look really foolish on 1 or 2 plays in any given game where he'll just get beat. But I really want to see how he looks, and I think he's got the potential to make this switch successfully. I'm rooting for him. I have always been a Bo Melton fan.
We both have. We're part. I feel like we're the presidents of the Bo Melton fan club. We love Bo. We love Bo Melton. He's awesome, and he's a guy where we're hearing where the transition from receiver to corner has it's actually been pretty solid for him so far. He's actually playing pretty well. He's showing that he's playing pretty well, and he could hold his own at the cornerback spot. And you just know where it's like, actually, I'll take it back. I think the president of the Packer, of the Bo Melton fan club, is honestly the Green Bay Packers in general, because they're doing whatever they can to make sure this guy is on the roster. They're giving him a chance. And for Bo Melton, it's like you got to love a guy who's just like, yeah, I'm up for it, man. Let's do it. Like I just want to be on a team. I just want to play. Bo Melton, he's going to get some cracks at corner. He is, because you have the injury with Nate Hobbs. Keyshawn Nixon is a little bit dinged up right now too. Bo Melton could be playing some significant snaps at corner coming up. And guess what? This is the preseason. Who cares if he gets beat 4 times?
Right.
Roll him out there. You're not going to get any better by not playing. That's the fact of the matter. But yeah, Bo Melton's the guy where when the Packers on defense, I'm going to be all glued in. Where it's like, oh yeah, like let's see how Bo holds up. Let's see if the Jets go at Bo. It'd be hilarious. I will say this: if Bo Melton picks off Justin Fields, I'm going to laugh very, very hard. It's going to be like, man, it's just same old Justin Fields. And I like Justin Fields as a person, nothing against him, but same old Justin Fields from his Bears days, now in New York against the Packers. So. Yeah, well, that's going to be very fun to see how that shakes out.
No question. What do you have your eye on? Who are you keeping an eye on among other people?
The wide receiver rotation, for sure. Dontavian Wicks is dealing with a calf issue right now, and it sounds like they're precautionary with him, but it just feels like, Gil, that receiver room is just so deep right now. And Christian Watson, they made it known he's not going to be on the roster on week 1. He's going to be on the PUP list. He's probably only going to miss the first 4 games, and he's going to be back in October. So that's a spot that's going to be taken up. It's because it sounds like the recovery process is going well. It sounds like he's moving pretty swiftly. It doesn't seem like there's many limitations. Jaden Reed obviously is going to be on this roster. Matthew Golden's obviously going to be on this roster. Savion Williams, the 3rd-round pick out of TCU, is going to be on this roster. But how many snaps is Romeo Doubs going to get? If Wicks does suit up, how many snaps does he get? You have Malik Heath. How many snaps does he get? They like Will Shepard, the undrafted rookie out of Colorado. How many snaps is he going to get? There's potential that if they're holding a guy out, like if a Romeo Doubs is getting fewer snaps than Jaden Reed or Wicks, if he does suit up, getting fewer snaps than Matthew Golden or whatever it may be, that the Packers are protecting someone for a potential trade at the end of camp. I think there's a legit possibility the Packers could be moving a receiver at the end of training camp just because of how full that room is.
It's a very full room, and you left out Mecole Hardman, who has been
everybody too. Yeah,
Mecole Hardman. I mean, how many times has Matt LaFleur mentioned him in his press conferences?
Yeah.
So, and he also could help out as a return specialist. So there's a lot of players out there who have made a good impression. There's a lot of depth. The key to me with the trades is you got to see Williams and Golden, that they're ready to take on bigger roles. So, I don't know necessarily that we'll see Romeo Doubs play more than a series if he plays at all in the first preseason game. But, who else gets reps and how many reps they get is something to definitely keep an eye on.
And it seems like every year we're talking about Romeo Doubs having a great camp. He had a great camp as a rookie, and he had a great camp last year, great family night last year. And he always seems to be a stud in training camp. So that's a guy where if he gets traded by the end of camp, I would not be surprised, because there's a lot of talk and chatter about how great he is in camp. But then in the regular season, it's been kind of, as the kids say, kind of mid, it's just been kind of mediocre for the most part. Obviously, he's a guy that Jordan Love does have a lot of trust in. I think there is a lot of talent there, but if Matthew Golden, like you said, it's going to be very dependent on the rookies, on Matthew Golden, Savion Williams. If those guys are ready and they're good to go, Romeo Doubs may be their best trade piece, their best trade chip coming out of that wide receiver room. It
would either be Romeo Doubs or Dontavian Wicks, depending on, to me, those would be the 2 biggest trade candidates, probably in that order.
It's interesting, because I would think Doubs, they could fetch. They would want to trade Doubs more than anyone, because he is entering a contract year.
Right.
And he's probably going to be on the way out anyway. So they would probably want to get something for him sooner rather than later. But then with Wicks, if a team really likes his talent and potential, you got 2 years of a rookie deal that he has ahead of him. You could get a better draft pick for Dontavian Wicks possibly.
And then the other issue is this. I think Wicks has the higher ceiling, but Doubs has the higher floor. You know what Romeo Doubs is. He's more consistent than Wicks. He has a specific role that he plays in this offense. Wicks, if he doesn't clean up the drops, he may never reach that ceiling. And if you get the feeling that he's not going to be able to clean that up, you can move him now before the value falls.
Yeah, I think, me personally, if it came down to it, where it's like you trade one, if you do decide you're going to trade one of these guys, and again, we don't know. This is all just conjecture. This is all speculation right now. This is what we do. This is what we do as fans. This is how we talk. Nobody saw a trade from Malik Willis coming last year after training camp. No one did, and it turned out to be a huge move and saved him from missing the playoffs last year for sure. But with Romeo Doubs, he had a lot of drops last year.
He did.
He had the conduct detrimental with the team. He had the concussion issues, which obviously is a big bummer. But it feels like to me, even though he's had a really, really good training camp, but this has been the story of Romeo Doubs, where he's had a lot of really good training camps, just hasn't really been the star during the regular season like he has in training camp, where maybe his play is starting to dip now, and you trade him before it gets too low. You know what I mean? That's what I'm getting at. It's like trade him while there's still value there.
Yep. Definitely a possibility.
It's gonna be a very interesting couple weeks coming up before the regular season kicks off and the initial 53-man roster and is finalized and the cut downs come around. But there could be a lot of movement coming up in Green Bay. But yeah, that rotation. Point being, that rotation wide receiver, I'm very interested to see that, because I think there's a lot of talent there. And the Packers, essentially, these are guys who are essentially putting on a showcase for other NFL teams. And the Packers being like, hey, like, look here, look at us. Like, Brian Gutekunst just be like, hey, give me a draft pick, man. Gil, with the first preseason game coming up, family night obviously is in the rearview mirror, and we're moving forward. The injury issues are obviously a concern in the secondary for the Packers right now. There's a lot of content right now with the Packers. What articles do you have specifically coming up on the Packers Post and Cheesehead TV?
On the Packers Post, I did an article on Mecole Hardman and how well he's played so far. And I also did an article on 10 players to watch in this first preseason game against the New York Jets. And over on Cheesehead, I talked about 4 former first-round picks that the Packers need to see more from this season. And some of it is because of injury. Some of it is that these guys needed more time to develop. But I went through the 4, where they're at, and what they need to do.
My guess is those 4 are Jordan Morgan, Lucas Van Ness, Isaiah Simmons, possibly?
No. These are Packers first-round picks.
Former Packer first-round picks.
Yes,
okay, I was thinking like, oh, maybe that. But hey, I don't want you to give away anything.
That's okay. That's all good.
Gil, let's do some trivia. How's that sound?
Always fun to do some trivia.
All right. Well, Omar Brown, we talked about him earlier this episode. He's been a superstar in the 2025 edition of Packers training camp this summer. He started his collegiate career at the University of Northern Iowa before wrapping it up at Nebraska. Gil, who is the only Northern Iowa alum to ever be drafted by the Packers?
Bryce Popp.
You didn't even need a hint, man. Linebacker Bryce Popp, you nailed it. He was the 159th overall pick in the 6th round, the 1990 NFL draft. Packers drafted Popp, and he was one of the greatest 6th-round picks probably in NFL history. Played his first 5 NFL seasons with Green Bay, amassed 32.5 sacks, including 11 sacks in 1993, before registering a career-high 17.5 sacks and winning the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year award in his first season with the Buffalo Bills in 1995. He had 75 sacks in his NFL career. Gil, you remember Bryce Popp more than I did.
Yeah.
What's something that sticks out with the Bryce Popp days in Green Bay?
He was not like the thickest guy. He was kind of slim, but he was quick off the ball, and he knew how to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, that's something where it's like my understanding is his hands were really good and his leverage was really good. And maybe the model for what NFL teams are looking for in future pass rushers, because guess what? Reggie Whites, who are 6'6", 300 pounds and can move the way he did, don't grow on trees. Those guys don't exist anymore. But just some additional facts, interesting factoids. The Packers have also had their fair share of undrafted rookies suit up in regular seasons for the team who were Northern Iowa alum as well. Former safety Benny Sapp III played 5 games for Green Bay in 2023 in his rookie season. Former corner McKinton Dorlant played 4 games for the Packers in 2016. That was the run of the table year. Now, again, we do have some bonus trivia, and I know you're going to get this right away, but we're going to read it anyways in case anyone at home listening doesn't know this. Which Northern Iowa alum and NFL Hall of Fame quarterback was on the Packers training camp roster in 1994?
Kurt Warner.
Yeah, it's too easy. Kurt Warner, boys and girls, for those who are listening, easily the most notable undrafted NFL player from Northern Iowa, was with the Packers during training camp in 94, but didn't make the Packers 53-man roster that season. But in the Packers' defense, they also had Brett Favre, future Pro Bowl quarterback Mark Brunell, and a solid backup quarterback in Ty Detmer at the time. And after he was released by the Packers, Warner played for the Iowa Barnstormers of the Arena Football League for the next 3 years before beginning his Hall of Fame career with the then St. Louis Rams. Warner won 2 NFL MVP awards and a Super Bowl MVP award after leading the Rams to a Super Bowl 34 title. Warner also helped lead the Rams to another Super Bowl appearance in 2002, and with the Arizona Cardinals to 1 Super Bowl appearance in 2009. Gil, do you remember when Kurt Warner was in training camp?
Vaguely. I mean, he was an afterthought at the time. And, I mean, you remember it more after the fact because you see the photographs of him talking with the coaching staff and with Brett Favre. But, he was just one of those camp bodies that you didn't expect much from because you mentioned how deep the Packers were at quarterback at that point.
That just goes to show where Ron Wolf just knew where to look for quarterbacks.
He was good.
He just knew, man. Like I don't know what it was. He was the ultimate quarterback whisperer where, Aaron Brooks was a backup in Green Bay for a short time. Matt Hasselbeck was a backup in Green Bay for a short time. And Doug Peterson was his journeyman backup quarterback, but still, he was in the league for a long time. He just knew where to find good players. And who knows, maybe Taylor Elgersma is the future Kurt Warner with the Green Bay Packers right now. You never know where you'll find a great quarterback, but man, yeah, it's interesting to see that. And you knew that, and they had such an all-star coaching staff that time too, because John Gruden and Andy Reid were on the staff, I believe, at that same time as well. And Steve Mariucci. Just unbelievable.
That coaching staff may have been the best, as far as coaches that went on to head coaching success. That might have been the best the best overall coaching staff in Packers history.
Ron Wolf and Mike Holmgren, man, it's just unbelievable GM head coach duo, man. Mike Holmgren deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. I will stand on business right there, Gil. Get him to the Hall sooner rather than later, please. He deserves to go.
The man belongs. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that is it for today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Packers. Packers, or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackerssean@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, here on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show, and thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.